Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus A330 pilot, and welcome to the landing tutorial for the iniBuilds Airbus A330 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We are on final approach to Palma de Mallorca Airport, we are in landing configuration and fully stabilized. Now, any good landing starts from fully stabilized conditions, but what exactly does that mean? You are stabilized on the approach if you're on speed, on localizer, on glide slope, at a descent rate appropriate for the phase of flight, at a pitch attitude appropriate for the phase of flight, in landing configuration, so flaps, gear, and last but not least with a thrust that is appropriate for the phase of flight. Now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the basics of landing the Airbus A330. At 100 feet on the radio altimeter, the automatic trim ceases and the pitch law is modified to be a full authority pitch direct law. Now, at 50 feet, a slight pitch down elevator order is applied, and therefore the pilot will have to move the stick rearwards so as to reproduce conventional aircraft aerodynamic characteristics. From a stabilized approach, which in this context mostly refers to the rate of descent and the pitch, the flare height is about 40 feet. Now, this varies depending on the operational conditions such as high airport elevation, tailwind, etc. So do adapt to the situation. The retard callout is going to play at 20 feet, but be aware that this is only a reminder and you should retard your thrust levers as appropriate. The usage of auto thrust for the landing is allowed, and it is down to the pilot to decide which thrust mode, automatic or manual, they want to use. If you encounter a crosswind during the approach, you should remain in a crabbed position until you enter the flare and then decrab with the rudder and apply slight wing down aileron into the wind so that you land with the wing that faces into the wind first. This is done so that you can minimize the amount of drift away from the center line that you are going to encounter. Airbus recommends to turn the autopilot off latest around 300 to 600 feet above the landing runway, and many airlines recommend that you do the same for the auto thrust. Some actually already demand it to be either on or off, as it will be for the landing when passing 1000 feet. Now let's go ahead and turn off the automatics over here, and then we'll talk a little bit about manual management of the approach. In the aircraft with Rolls-Royce engines, you are looking at generally around 46% N1 on the final approach, and in aircraft with the GE engine, you are looking at about 56%. In general, you should only do small corrections to the attitude and to the thrust, as is appropriate for the change in the flight path necessary. Reaching 50 feet, we look towards the end of the runway and use the radio altimeter to judge our height. So, flare, idle, hold the pitch, land the aft boogie first, then you fly the forward boogie down, and then you smoothly land the nose wheel. Once you're down, select reverse thrust as necessary, verify that the spoilers have come up, and verify on the speed trend vector that you are decelerating as you should. By the time you reach 70 knots, the reversers should be returned into the reverse idle position, and when you reach taxi speeds, the reversers can be deactivated completely. Override the auto brakes by using manual braking so that you vacate the runway on a rapid exit taxiway with no more than 45 knots, and if the taxiway has a 90-degree turnoff, use no more than 10 knots. Last but not least, we got to ensure that the aircraft is going to come to a stop completely behind the stop bar. Now, this means, since we've got a very long aircraft, over 60 meters long, that we will have to taxi quite some distance from the stop bar that we find at the end of the runway. In many cases, it means that you can only vacate the runway when you are actually completely going into a taxiway. Now, this is something that has to be coordinated with air traffic control, and the real-world controllers know about it. On VATSIM, however, it may happen that you have to advise air traffic control that you cannot vacate the runway without a taxi instruction. So, with all of that out of the way, I would like to say welcome to Palma de Mallorca Airport. I hope you enjoyed the landing tutorial. Leave your feedback in the comments below. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.